There's a few ways to loop in Java. One way we can do it is with a while loop. Let's set up an int to use in the while loop. We'll say int x equals 0. And then in the brackets after the keyword while, then we put an expression. It can be any expression that evaluates to true or false. Let's say while x is less than or equal to 10. And then in the following curly brackets here after the expression, then we put the code that's going to execute if the expression evaluates to true. Let's say system.out.println x is plus the value of x. And if we run this right now, we're going to get an infinite loop because x is going to always be less than or equal to 10 because we haven't changed the value of x anywhere. So that's something we want to avoid. Let's run this right now just to see what's going to happen. Our program just keeps printing out x is 0 until we stop it because it's stuck in an infinite loop. So we have to say x plus plus. So increase the value of x by 1 for every time through the loop. Or we could do x plus equals 2 or any number here. So this is just going to increase x by 2 for every pass through the loop. So now if we run this, we're going to get x's 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, and then it's going to stop. X is 0, 2, 4, 6, 8, 10. So in short, that's what a while loop is. We just have the keyword while, an expression that evaluates to true or false, and then the code that follows in the curly brackets here that will execute every time that this evaluates to true. Now let's have some fun with while loops. Instead of just having an example here where we're just dealing with x, let's do some fun stuff with them. Let's say while not at store. So we're going to make a person and we're going to have them walk to the store. Let's say int orig distance equals 900. We'll say that's in meters, and then we'll say int distance walked equals 0, and then we'll say int distance from store, and first we'll just set this to the orig distance, so that's as far as they are away from the store to start out with, and then we're going to update distance from store inside of our loop. Let's make a boolean at store and set that to false originally because the person is not at the store. And we can get rid of this x up here. We don't need that anymore. Let's say while not at store, distance walked plus equals 50. So they're going to walk 50 meters if they're not at the store yet. Let's put an if statement inside of our while loop. Let's say if distance from store is less than or equal to 0, then at store equals true. Else distance walked plus equals 50. And let's put some print statements in here just to see what's happening. Let's say system.out.println you are at the store. And then system.out.println you are plus distance from store plus meters from the store. And then we're going to have to update distance from store because right now the program just thinks that it's the same as the orig distance up here. So after distance walked plus equals 50, let's just put distance from store equals orig distance minus distance walked. Let's run this right now and see what happens. So the person starts out 850 meters. Well, they start out 900 meters and then they walk the original 50 meters. And then we get them walking to the store, and then you are 0 meters from the store. and you are at the store. And just to see more of what while loops can do, let's put some more stuff in here. Let's say while not at store, and for and we use double ampersand. So while not at store and not too tired. So the double ampersand is going to make it so that it evaluates both of these. So not at store and not too tired. And in order for the code in here to execute, both of these statements have to evaluate to true. If just one of them evaluates to true, then it's not going to execute. Both of these have to be true. They have to be not at the store and not too tired. And of course, we'll need Boolean too tired equals false. And now let's just put another if statement under here. Let's say if distance walked is greater than or equal to 10,000 meters, then too tired is going to equal true, and we'll print out you are too tired, you can't go on. So right now if we run this, the person's going to be fine because they only have 900 meters to walk to the store. It's going to be the same as before. Let's go ahead and change this to 90,000. Let's say they have 90 kilometers to the grocery store. So now we're going to get you are too tired, you can't go on, because one of these evaluated to false, and so the while loop stopped. And let's have some more fun. Let's take all of this and put it into a function first, just because it's kind of messy having it in our main method like this. Let's say walk to store. Actually, no, even better. Let's say get groceries. And then we're going to go down below our main method. And we'll say public static void get groceries. It's okay if you don't understand all these words right here. You can just follow along. Public static void get groceries. And then inside of here we'll say Boolean walk successful equals walk to store. And then we're going to take all of this stuff, and this is going to be our walk to store method. So we'll say from get groceries down to here, we want all of this. Now we're going to define a walk to store method. We're going to say public static Boolean walk to store. Boolean instead of void, because this method is going to return a Boolean value. And that Boolean value is going to be stored inside of walk successful up here. So we have public static Boolean walk to store. And that's where we're going to put all of our code that was up in the main method before. I'm just going to take this get groceries, put it back into the main method, because that's the original method we want to call. So now in our main method, all we have is get groceries, which is beautiful because it doesn't look nice having a lot of messy low-level code in the main method. So we just have get groceries now. So get groceries is going to be called, and then the execution will jump down to here and get groceries, and then it will execute walk to store and store whatever is returned by that into the Boolean walk successful. And then let's say if walk successful. And remember, in if statements and while loops, we can put any expression that will evaluate to true or false, and walk successful is a Boolean, so its only possible values are true or false. So if walk successful essentially just means the same thing as if walk successful equals true. This is just shorter and easier to write and easier to read and understand. So we say if walk successful, then shop in store. And now we have to define shop in store. We have a couple error messages right now, but we'll deal with those as they come up. Right now, we just need to define shop in store. We'll say public static void shop in store. And we had another error message up here because right now we haven't told this method to return the Boolean value. So we need to go down to the bottom of the method and say return walk successful. You can name this one whatever you want. It doesn't necessarily have to match up with the walk successful up here where the value of true or false is being returned into. It can be named anything. Let's say return walk successful, and now we need to define walk successful. Boolean walk successful, and then we'll say if not too tired and at store. So if the person is not too tired and they are at the store, then walk successful equals true. And we can just set it to false originally. So Boolean walk successful equals false. If they're not too tired and they've got to the store, then walk successful equals true. And then the value in walk successful is going to be returned to where we called the method up here, where we called walk to store. So now Boolean walk successful is going to have a value of true or false. And then if that value is true, if the walk was successful, then the person's going to shop in the store. Let's say they have a grocery list to get and they also need broccoli. Let's say while not finished list or, and logical or in Java is just these two lines here. You'll find them on your keyboard right above the enter key. We'll say while not finished list or not has broccoli. And then we'll need to define both of these booleans. Boolean has broccoli equals false. Boolean finished list equals false. And let's say int num groceries to get equals 10. And whatever we put in this while loop is going to execute as long as one of these statements evaluates to true. So while either the list isn't finished or the person doesn't have broccoli, then they're going to keep shopping inside of this while loop. So for logical and, then both of these statements had to evaluate to true in order for the loop to keep executing. But for logical or, only one statement needs to evaluate to true. So while they're not finished the list or they don't have broccoli, then let's say num groceries to get minus minus, so they get one more grocery every time. And then we'll say if num groceries to get equals 0, then finished list equals true. And now we're going to use math.random to give this person a 1 in 3 chance of getting broccoli. Let's say int random num equals int, and then in brackets, math.random times 3. So they'll have a 1 in 3 chance of getting the broccoli. I'll explain how this math.random works in a second. Let's say if random num equals 0. I guess that's not going to make any sense without explaining how math.random works. So math.random, which we called up here, returns, here, we'll take this out, by itself, math.random returns a random double between 0 and 0.99. So if we call the math.random by itself, then we get a double returned. We could say double num returns equals math random. So it's going to be a random number between 0 and less than 1. I'm pretty sure it's a repeating 0.99999. So we get a random double returned greater than 0 and less than 1. And up here, we put it into an int. But what's returned by math random is a double. So in order to be able to store it in an int, we just write int in brackets. And then Java just takes it and converts it to an int so that it can store it in this random num here. And we put times 3. That's just going to take the random double returned by math random and multiply it by 3. So that would leave us with a number between 0 and 2 point repeating 9. And the way that Java is going to convert this to an int, remember ints can't hold decimals, so the way that Java is going to convert it to an int is just by chopping off the decimal. It's not going to round it, it's just going to truncate it. It's just going to get rid of all the decimal. So that means that what's going to be returned into int random num is just a number between 0 and 2. Because we could end up with 0.11 or 0 point decimal whatever, but that would just be cut off. We'd get a 0 because it gets cut off when we convert it to an int. And we could end up with 2.99, again, would get cut off. So in random num, we're going to have either 0, 1, or 2. Those are the only 3 possible values in there. So we have 3 possible values that could be stored in int random num right now. Let's pick one of them. We'll say 0. We'll say if random num is 0. So there's a 1 in 3 chance that it's going to be 0. We'll say if random num equals 0, then has broccoli equals true. And I guess we don't want the person to be able to get broccoli multiple times. So we could put if not has broccoli. That way this code will only execute if the person doesn't have broccoli yet. Let's take this, throw it inside of the if statement. And let's just put a print statement in here, system.out.println, yay, you got broccoli. So let's run this right now and see what we get. The person is too tired, they can't go on because we still haven't changed the value at the very top. Let's change the orig distance back to 900 meters so that the person can make it to the store. So they're at the store and they got broccoli. Let's put some more print statements in here so we can actually see what's going on. Let's say if not has broccoli and not finished list, system.out.println, you need to finish your list and get broccoli. Else if not has broccoli and finished list. So if they don't have broccoli but they have finished your list, system.out.println, if I can type here, system.out.println, you need to get broccoli still. And we're just accounting for all the possibilities here for what they could have and not have. Let's say else if has broccoli but isn't finished the list. System.out.println, you need to finish your list. And finally, we have our else statement, which is the person being done shopping. So they have the broccoli and they're finished the list. That's the only possibility that we haven't accounted for. Let's say system.out.println, you are done shopping. You have broccoli and your list is done. Yay, you're amazing. And up here, let's put another print statement. Let's put it right after num groceries to get. Let's say system.out.println, you got another item. Yay. Now let's run this and then we'll actually be able to see what's happening in here. So the person walks to the store, they are 0 meters from the store, they're at the store, they got an item, that's their first item, so really it shouldn't say you got another item. Let's make that more accurate, you got an item. So they get to the store, they get an item, yay, they got broccoli on their very first item, lucky them. And then they keep finishing their list, getting items, and then in the end, you're done shopping, you have broccoli, and your list is done. Yay, you are amazing.